Hey guys, Macrop Shooter 9x18. Let's just ignore the fact that I haven't uploaded in 4 years and go straight into the video. Today we're going to be testing the North American Arms in 22LR. It is a 5-shot revolver with a sub-inch long barrel, and it's easily the smallest handgun that I own, being dwarfed even by my Beretta Bobcat. Of course, it is a real firearm, and all firearm safety standards should be kept when handling this weapon. But how effective is it really? And could you rely on this for self-defense purposes? That's what I personally wanted to know, and it's why I bought the thing and why I did all of this testing. I will be using a Heritage Rough Rider revolver with a 6-inch barrel as a control, but we're just going to go ahead and get right into it first with the CCI Stangers. Alrighty, as you can see, we got about 11 inches of penetration with no deformation to the hollow point whatsoever. We lost a negligible amount of weight in the ballistic gelatin, and let's look at the comparison to the Heritage Rough Rider round, and you can see we had about the same penetration depth, being 11 inches. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Winchester silvertips, and we're going to see how they perform right now. Alright, as you can see, we had just over 8 inches of penetration from the North American Arms with no deformation to the hollow point to speak of and no loss of mass either. To compare to the Heritage Rough Rider revolver, we do see a difference, 6 inches to be exact difference between them. The Heritage getting 14 inches of penetration out of the Winchester rounds versus the 8 inches from the North American Arms. That is pretty substantial. Next, we're going to be looking at the Federal Premium Punch 29 grain 22LR. Alrighty, so it looks like we got about 10.5 inches of penetration with the Federal Punch out of the North American Arms. Being that it's not a hollow point, there was no deformation and, of course, no loss of mass either. To quickly compare it to the Heritage Rough Rider, we see a total penetration of 15 1/4 inch, about 5 inches or so deeper than the North American Arms. Moving right along, we're going to be looking at Aguila 22LR. Alrighty, looking at the Aguila Super Duties, we had about 8 inches of penetration into the gel block. As is the trend with most of these rounds being tested from the North American Arms, we saw no deformation of the hollow point cavity, and again, we see no loss of mass either. To compare it to the Heritage Rough Rider revolver, that 6 inches of barrel length did get slightly more penetration, although not a whole lot compared to the other rounds in this test, being only 9 and about 1/4 inches of penetration depth, so just a little over 1 inch deeper. And lastly, we're going to be looking at Remington 22LR. Alrighty, with the last round of the testing, we saw a penetration depth of just shy of 9.5 inches. Again, going with the overall theme of this video, we see no deformation or change of the hollow point cavity and no change of mass to speak of. To compare it again to the Heritage Rough Rider, we see a 11 inches of penetration, so 1.5 inches additional with that 6-inch barrel length versus the sub-inch of the North American Arms. To kind of sum up and give my final thoughts on the, I suppose, viability of the North American Arm as a self-defense option, and this is my personal opinion, so if you are a ardent fan of North American Arms, please do not take this as disrespect. I view this revolver purely as a novelty. For one, it is a single action revolver, meaning it's going to be quite difficult to properly utilize it. should you need to do so in a self-defense situation. Secondly, it's far too small to be fired accurately, as I have fired probably more rounds than most people out of this, being in the hundreds of rounds out of a single action 5-shot revolver. And I can barely hit anything beyond 5 yards with it simply due to its small size and the tremendous difficulty that comes with aiming it. Lastly, as you can see here, the penetration and performance of the rounds, while these would certainly do damage to human tissue, it is really hard to justify carrying something like this in a world full of pocket nines or just better 22 LR handguns that are potentially semi-automatic, such as the Brother Bobcat, where you would get effectively the same performance but with reloadable magazines and 2 additional rounds in said magazines. So in conclusion, if you are an ardent fan of this and you want to carry it, I think it will still go bang and it will still hurt someone. I just personally could not recommend it for self-defense myself, and for me it is going to remain just a novelty that I do admittedly enjoy shooting because of how small it is. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe.